Yeah, I'm getting the notification. I don't know what it actually is going to mean. Just said the mic. I don't know what it actually is going to mean. Just said that my connection was unstable, so we'll see. Looks like it's straightening up now. We'll hang on here for a minute or so. I've got a few sea stories in this cup. We're going non-alcoholic today. um, I'm not. I've been off of work for a little bit. I mean, a vacation day. So, but when I'm not working, it is really easy to drink just about every night. I mean, not get drunk, not even get buzzed, but it's easy. My rule of thumb is in this. I've kept from being too dependent on. That's part of how I've kept from being too dependent on alcohol was even when in the military, is I generally tried to keep my alcohol consumption to the weekends. Even when I was going out and getting drunk and everything, I didn't want to become hooked on it. So, yeah. When you're off of work, it's real easy to have a drink every night. And one drink every night isn't that big of a deal. But when one drink is going to turn into two drinks, it's going to turn into 20. And it just isn't, not for me. So it's like everything else, it takes discipline. Um, but so yeah, I've got a little bit of a sea story here, and then oh, see if anybody wanting to join in on the chat. I mean, that's fine if not. But yeah. Excuse me. So yeah, so my sea story tonight or today, I should say, because it's only like four. It's not even 4 o'clock yet. Oh, excuse me. Um, so for the better part of my time on ship, I had been voluntold to be on the flight firefighting party. See, bigger ships like like your the Bonhomme Richard, those and then up into your carriers and bigger ships, they have an actual air wind, like an I don't honestly, but they have actual people that is their job, that's their rate, is to deal with the flight deck and just all different things aircraft. Well, my ship that I was on was an LSD, and I it was big enough that we could hold to warrant, according to the big Navy. It was not big enough to warrant having people whose job it was specifically to deal with aircraft. So basically, my job was to go out there and set up the flight deck. That's nothing important. But basically, if something did happen with the helo, it could get really bad really quick because you're talking about fuel, um, highly flammable, and you're talking about certain munitions, highly flammable. I'm talking certain munitions that water is not going to put that sucker out. I'm talking about because kinds of fire. You got an Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. Alpha, anything that leaves an ash, that's wood, clothing, people. Those people we call a screaming alpha. Um, yeah, that's a screaming alpha right there. But so that's one to be your fire. Bravo, that's going to be fuel, oil, things like that. Um, Charlie is an electrical fire, and if you cut the power, that's how you put out a Charlie is you cut the power. And if it continues to be on fire, then it turns into an alpha. But a Charlie is an electrical fire. Now a delta is a metal fire. That's things like magnesium. Um, and there are certain metals, and then once metal gets burning, it actually will create its own source of oxygen. So a delta fire, what you do, and about the only way you can really deal with a delta fire is get rid of it, push it over the side, jettison, what they call it. But basically, we were on standby in case something went and, you know, caught on fire or they crash landed. We were the guys who were going to be the first ones in to run in and make sure the batteries are disconnected, and make sure that there wasn't going to be a fire start, and make sure people to the medical care that they needed. So, and that sounds all cool until you're there every day for a deployment. They call, and you're basically on standby all day from like 0700 until 2200. You're pretty much on call all day, and then they just bring people back and forth for no reason, or they don't. But you're still on standby, and you wait for a couple of hours, just to, you wait for a couple of hours for one helo. Okay, that's it. And when you talk about doing that for an entire deployment, which our deployments were usually like 3-4 months long, but we'd go out for like 3 or 4 months, we'd be back in for like 2 weeks, and then we'd be back out for another 3 or 4 months. Kind of how we did things where I was at. But doing that, and then you've also got to do your regular job. It was kind of a pain in the neck. And I, like I said, I got voluntold to do it. But then don't get me wrong, I've got some cool stuff from it, and I enjoyed my time. Some of it, and I'm, like I said, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed parts of it anyway. But sometimes now we would do things that were night off, like basically night vision operations. NVG, I think they call them NVGOs. So night vision ops or whatever. I can't remember really what they were called. But it was like low light. And so we saw nothing. It was pitch black, middle of the night. The helos, we would hear the helos. And you could maybe see like a little light, maybe. But the entire outside of the ship was dark, which it usually was at night anyway, unless there were certain events that we would have lights exposed. But it was, and this was like complete dark. Nobody's allowed to go outside the ship that where they might expose some light. I mean, it's pitch dark. Um, and so your night vision is so turned on right now. And I'm talking, no, excuse me. I mean, you want to talk about dark. Like, that is the dark I've ever seen above ground. Out in the middle of the ocean, away, you cannot see any light from land. You're so far out, you cannot see any light. The ship is completely dark. And all you can, I mean, you can't see this far in front of your face. Um, and then you have fireman, fireman Jackalope. So, so the big story about this is one old boy decides in the middle of all this he's going to see how bright he's gonna like light a lighter. So he did. He lit his lighter and then closed it. He's like, because it instantly your eyes are so set for the dark, and it instantly went from dark to bright as day. And he was a good piece away from me, but it was so bright. And it's honestly, it's it's a blessing that they weren't trying to land at the time, because that could have very possibly have caused them to crash. Because as bright as it was to us, them trying to look through these night vision goggles, or the night vision that they had, it would have been, it would have been blinding. Um, but so I guess that's one of my sea stories. Your preparedness aspects of life is thinking about light discipline. And that's something that you did have to worry about on ship, and it was very much preached on ship. Underway, you did what was called darkened ship. And I mean, you did it in port too, but there were more steps involved underway. Because so darkened ship, a lot of your spaces would get turned. The lights would not be turned off.